Good evening. Let me call this May meeting of the HAC to order, please. First item on our agenda are public comments. To the best of my knowledge, we have no one signed up for public comments. Is that accurate?
Not that I'm aware of.
Then, do we have minutes that need to be approved that we don't have all email approvals? Nope. Okay, all our minutes are approved. We are ready for the public safety report.
Thank you, Sandy. Good evening, everybody. I'll provide the public safety report tonight. Chief Drake Massey, good to see everybody. Since our last meeting, we had activity in the Glen. On May 1st, our officers contacted the subject up there with an outstanding warrant, drug-related, near the 1000 block of Santa Cruz Island Drive. Took him into custody without incident. On the May 14th, we had a call of a vandalism to some signs in the apartment building. A couple of juveniles were last seen leaving the area. They were gone before the police arrived. And then on May 15th, we had a public intoxication contact at Anacapa and Cathedral. Our officers handled that situation. Just wanted to kind of provide everybody information as a reminder that this weekend is commencement. Commencement will be on Saturday and Sunday. We'll have 2 ceremonies both days. First ceremony is at 9. The second ceremony is at 1 o'clock both days. So kind of more of a traditional commencement that we had in years past. Last year we did this little drive-through thing where we had crazy routes through the, we had to make adjustments. But this year it's going to be more traditional. No road closures. Shouldn't impact the University of Glen community too much, other than increased traffic on in and around the campus area. We've got signs up and start to see some signs come up now for the anticipation of commencement this weekend. Another reminder is on June 5th from noon to about 5, we have the Casa Pacifica Wine Festival. And that will also, we anticipate anywhere from 1,500 to 200,000, or 1,500 to 2,000 folks that will attend that. As everybody who's lived in the Glen knows that we'll have music playing and that kind of, kind of echoes up into the University of Glen community, but they should have that all wrapped up by about 5 o'clock, and hopefully all the Uber drivers have all the intoxicated people to where they need to get to without incident. So another reminder for folks, I don't know if you got this or not, that between May 23rd and May 25th, University Drive will be closed. They're going to be doing some paving, some slurry, I should say, and then some striping during that time. So that road will be impacted. And then also that same roadway between June 1st and June 2nd. So they're going to pave and slurry late May, and then like I said, June 1st and 2nd, they'll do the restriping there. Last report, just for those that may be interested in listening, we are working. We had a good meeting today. We're discussing a safety fair. We haven't nailed down some dates yet, but working with Jake and Mission Hills to provide a community safety fair that'll discuss fire safety and fire mitigation and emergency management, evacuation, and just general emergency management stuff. We haven't nailed down some dates, but we're in the idea mode right now. And it'll be open to the University of Glen community in combination with the campus community. So we're looking forward to that, and well, more information to follow. And that's all I have. Public safety.
Chief, the 3 incidents that you reported, were those residents or were they drive-ins?
Sarge, can you kind of help me out on that? So I know, I believe one. Let me think.
Maybe I should ask.
The suspect arrested without seven warrants was not arrested. That was not arrested. And as far as the two juveniles that were seen taking the signs, we did. As far as the intoxicated subject,
I believe that was a resident. Yes.
The first person. The first incident, do you know why they were here?
I don't have.
their relationship with the resident.
Okay,
Okay,
got it.
there you go.
Two more questions.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Casa Pacifica. This is a really good question. Is Casa Pacifica within your jurisdiction?
Well, it's, I mean, if you use the mile, officially our jurisdiction, because our jurisdiction as University Police officers is from 1 mile beyond any of the borders there. Casa Pacifica sits within that, but that's for our patrol, for our call for service response. That would still be county response, yes.
Never really thought about it. And the final thing, Safety Day. Safety in the community could include more than policing type services, for example, fire. Is there a chance we could get
So we had
county
a-
fire, state fire to get involved?
So we had a really broad-based conversation planning session today, the result of which is a very, very expansive view of what our safety fair should cover, including looking at fire-related things. And thanks to John's suggestion, it may become our first really large combined event. University Glen and the university doing something together. And I.
Keeping safety in mind for the entire community.
That's a really exciting opportunity to finally look at
So,
town and gown working together to do something.
so my focus was specifically on the fire part. So it might be helpful if county fire or whoever it is could talk about some practical fire safety issues. I mean, we have open firewood fire pits that people use. Is that okay? Just suggestions on things like that. So
There will be a fire department piece to this. That's going to be part of it. So yeah, and thank you for your suggestions, and we'll. Yeah, we talked about that already, but we can even expand it a little.
Sure, you give me a list of questions before the next planning meeting.
okay, thank you. That's it.
I have a question for.
Hey, Simha, how are you? Good.
Quick question. I believe you're setting up an EOC,
We're setting up for the commencement.
not an emergency center, communication center. I
For-
believe there's some repeaters coming up, things like that.
Are you talking?
Elaborate on that.
Are you talking in reference to the commencement?
Not only commencement, overall from a radio communication perspective.
Yeah, we're looking at our complete on-campus radio system now. We're improving our radio console, hopefully to have that installed by June. But as part of that overall radio communication plan, it's kind of involves 4 pieces: our radio console, our repeaters, as you're referring to up on the hill, and we're looking at having that reevaluated. And we already had it reevaluated, but we want to have there's what they call a microwave piece associated with that as well. So we're looking at what's going to be better options for us right now. We have a vendor that's due to come back out and do a wider assessment on that piece of it. And then the last piece is improving our officers' handheld radios so that we have the most up-to-date equipment. So
How integrated are you with the OES?
well, our main connection there, which I've shared with you before, is with the county EOC as our liaison emergency manager Magna Tukas. Our radios, our handheld radios, will connect with county, so we have those capabilities. Once we improve our repeater system, we'll have even a wider range. That's our hopes.
So my next question would be, what kind of radio communication network do you have within the company in case of emergency?
In terms of radios,
Radio communication with the homeowners or licensed to operate within the OES.
I don't believe we have anything at this point, unless I know that the certain.
I'm just asking,
Yeah.
do you have plans to do?
So we'll entertain any plan for that. If that's something that you and I can perhaps get on a side conversation and see how that would work. We do like it with our building marshals on campus. They have a radio.
Going on with Mr. Jason there.
Yes, so the ham radio, that's another piece that we're working. We're also working with him because he's part of the ham operator club. And like for example, for commencement, they're going to be, using a practice session and using our site up there to help with their ham radio communications for that as practice. So that may be something that we could look at. Yeah.
And how would that impact our new plan
I don't know yet. We'd have to look at it and then have a deeper conversation about that at this point, but we're welcome to have that conversation. For sure.
And, okay.
Do we have a population of ham people in the neighborhood? Licensed folks?
It's funny you guys mentioned it. You just mentioned the ham radio operators. I don't know. Jason Miller is who is a professor on campus. He is part of a club, a ham operators club, and we're just getting off the ground and we start working with them. I don't know all their capabilities at this point. We're at ground zero on this thing, but we certainly from public safety want to work with him. We know there's some value to having ham operators. I mean, emergencies across the nation have proven that, you know, when communications goes down. So
My father used to be the emergency coordinator for Riverside County, and he ended up in that, what was a volunteer job,
right.
because he was a ham operator, and he brought that whole communications network back in the day.
Yeah. As we walk that out, I'd be interested to see who has interest here in University of Galena community. There's a lot of value to those folks.
And I guess one of our real issues in our canyon is that our cell coverage is so spotty.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I would hope that community-wide, we would look at, from an emergency perspective, how we improve that so that what everyone is carrying with them also integrates into what you're doing.
Yeah, we're, you know, and part of our reassessment for our repeaters is we know that we're going to be expanding into that Glen two-phase community. We want to make sure our coverage, you know, gets into those areas as well. So, yeah, that's something that we're thinking about long term. So, yeah.
Well, glad you're thinking about it, and I also think and I'm sorry that our public folks aren't joining us this evening, but it was an issue that was on my list to bring up with them tonight, was to look at what could we do to expand cell coverage in our cell desert that we have in the canyon.
Exactly.
And I think that's going to have to end up being a public-private partnership in some way. But hey, thank you. Other questions? Oh, Simone has another question.
What are plans for building a, what we call it as, you know, sort of a community watch group? You have, what is this called? Neighborhood watch. Do you have any plans to do that for once the 600 homes comes through?
No, that's again, we're always looking for ways to improve
There's a lot
public
of
safety.
people could get it as a sister channel grant project.
Well, I mean, it's something that we're interested in. Obviously, we're going to have an increased population up there. We don't know what the numbers would be, but over 2,000, we're, you know.
Because that would automatically include some of the emergency management.
Yeah, that's a good possibility. We'll entertain that for sure. That's a good idea. All communities, a lot of communities. Maybe it's time for us to consider it. You know, obviously it takes community buy-in. You know, but I think we have enough interest.
And just a thought process.
Yeah, good thoughts. For sure.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief.
Right here.
Good evening. Scott Godfrey, Bright View Landscape Services. I like the idea of sitting down. So this evening, just give you some real brief updates as to what we have going on, but mainly the overall focus that we've had just as landscapers has been water management. That's the thing that we've been really focusing on, trying to understand the current regulations and how that's going to impact landscape overall. A couple things I can tell you is just as of this week, Camarosa does not have any current restrictions in place. They do have a board meeting coming up on the 26th. So that is an open forum for anybody that would like to attend, but Camarosa will, at that board of directors meeting, will be rolling out their mandates. So they do anticipate that. Some other notes is just to know that the community would be considered a commercial account. So there's a lot of people talking about residential water and residential restrictions. Just bear in mind that we are a commercial account for water usage. Just in general, under the state mandate, we are considered a commercial account. The other things that really kind of came off that was they are following the SoCal Water Smart rebates. So turf renovations, controller upgrades, which you guys should be okay on the controller upgrades, but water efficient nozzles, high efficiency nozzles. So those are all opportunities to look into as we move forward. But that's the MWD.
Potential rebates. or
Absolutely.
salary
Yeah.
rebates.
Absolutely. So that all follows the MWD, Metropolitan Water District rebates. Camarosa themselves does not administer any rebates, but they follow the MWD program. I think it's SoCal Water Smart, something to that effect. It's a pretty easy website if you want to find it. But some of the things, again, like I said, turf removal, high efficiency nozzles, things of those extent are all things that they are trying to go towards. One of the things that also we want to make sure that we are adhering to is, as recently they have outlawed the usage of non-pressure regulated sprinkler heads. So they don't even manufacture those anymore, or you can't buy them in California anymore. So anytime we're doing any sort of sprinkler repairs or upgrades or anything, we are using the pressure regulating heads. So that is just a normal practice that we're doing as of recently. If you have them, you can, the non-regulated heads, pressure regulated heads, you can use them, but you can't buy them anywhere right now. So just something to be aware of.
I'm sorry. So what does that mean to us?
So what's that?
Do we have them right now? Not.
So most of your sprinkler heads right now, and that's just the pop-ups, the regular pop-ups, they're non-pressure regulated, and they don't have any check valves on them.
Okay.
And that's when that was what everybody used when it was installed. But now California mandate is every new sprinkler head has to be pressure regulated and check valves.
So does that mean we'll be using less water?
Theoretically, yes. Yeah. So what that does is the pressure regulating, it allows it eliminates or helps to eliminate the loss through atmospheric pressure. You know, when your sprinkler head pops up and you kind of get that mist, the pressure regulating helps to regulate that or minimize that mist. So you don't lose as much water through that.
How much more do they cost than the old fashioned kind?
Quite a bit. Quite a bit. Just off the top of my head, a typical sprinkler was costing anywhere from $6 to $7. Now they're about $13. Some of the what they call shrub heads, so they're little risers that you put on top, that you put the sprinkler nozzle on top of those just cost about 50 cents. They cost about $3.50 now. Yeah, so it's a pretty significant increase. But again, we're not doing any sort of wholesale. Just anytime that we make a repair, we're putting in the new product as we move forward. Some of just the general statewide mandates. So the state has rolled out some just general mandates, and most municipalities or water agencies are kind of adhering to that with their own twist to it. And again, it depends on reclaimed versus potable water. So that's kind of where we're waiting for Camarosa. But just in general, they don't want any more than 2 days irrigating on any property. So 2 days per week irrigation. They want to limit the water window. It's from 6 p.m. to 10 a.m. So don't water in the middle of the day. So that's another thing that we need to be thoughtful of. Currently, we're pretty much adhering to that schedule right now. Working with Jake to ensure that we are, because we've had some issues with phase 2, but going in, making sure that we're using the hydromat or weathermatic system to make sure that we're in compliance in the water window. So our current water window right now for turf is Tuesday, 10 p.m. to Wednesday, 6 a.m. And then Saturday, 10 p.m. to Sunday, 6 a.m. That's for turf. And then for our shrubs, it's Wednesday, 10 p.m. to Thursday, 6 a.m. So keeping those on those specific days.
Mind if I interrupt you for a second?
Go for it.
I looked at Jake and John. So we've had a discussion in the last couple of weeks about university here, running water, airlock and all that. Have we got a solution? I mean, are these guys squared away now?
Yes.
Okay, we're good?
Yes, yes. We've worked together to get the timing correct. And now that the timing is correct on Brighton's part, we are scheduled, it may have already happened, to close the valve. It has closed between,
I applaud you all. Thank you.
I think there was a little bit of confusion on water on Tuesday. Okay, well, Tuesday in this case actually started, or sorry, water on Thursday, Wednesday night. So we got everything working with Jake and John. So we got that squared away.
so that when the university starts during the day, but we aren't pulling water at the same time.
We are going to go through, we're going to do, so Marcelo, our production manager, I will be, the rest of the team will be out here tomorrow, just doing some inspection just to make sure that we haven't missed anything. some just kind of forward-thinking plans of action, just again, some recommendations is we want to make sure that we prioritize any high visibility areas. We want to make sure that we are preserving heritage trees. That could mean installing drip around some of these larger trees if we do have to do further reductions. So those are some of the recommendations, high visibility heritage trees. We've got quite a few of them through the community. Prioritize functional turf. So functional turf would be anything like the park, anything that people use on a regular basis. Functional turf would not be parkway turf. So that might be something that we have to reduce. Parkway turf is just a strip between the street and the sidewalk. So they don't consider that functional turf. And then kind of lowest priority would be really your hardy shrubs, where kind of your hedges, your rhaphiolepis, stuff like that, your more drought tolerant plant material, they would be on the low priority turf if we do have to prioritize even further. So that's the mindset that we're going with if we should have to make further changes to the irrigation system.
What are you going to buy total area, square feet area also?
What was that, sir?
Are you planning to look into the total surface area of height?
No, that's not necessarily something we'd be doing.
If it's something that makes sense, then we could, but we're prioritizing by plant type. Yeah. It's the other big thing that we're working on in terms of the June 1st deadline for brush control. We've got a lot of it knocked out, but we tried, I think I reported maybe one of my last times I was here, is we wanted to start earlier on the brush control. So kind of starting down the ravine. Some of that we've got some of the bigger stuff. You see some of the stuff we've grown. So the team's going to come through here and just knock down everything to make sure we're totally in compliance. Probably want to schedule something with Larry, make him out here. So Jake, Jake, I meet tomorrow to make sure that we're in compliance and we're ready to go. You will notice teams out here the next 2 weekends just to make sure that they're pushing out, but we won't start early. We'll make sure that we're
Determined, and I don't know to whom this question, whose property we're clearing?
That is not that is not, we are getting
We are clearing what Larry Williamson told us to clear last
That's
year.
what we're
We are
doing.
doing that again,
yes.
which means that Tom's pending question about what portion of that is really Eugelin's responsibility and what portion is the university's responsibility remains an open question.
We can talk about it.
Okay,
It's a pending issue.
Pending issue. Pending clarification.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be done. The question is who pays for a certain part of it. That's all. Who pays?
Yes, at the present time, it is in the budget, Bracken's budget to do it.
Speaking of pending items, we do have a list of a couple of pending work orders that we're going through, making sure we're checking those off, working with Jake and the team to make sure we're complying with all pending work orders. A couple of things, we noticed some plants that were struggling from phase 1, the planting. So we want to make sure we get those replanted and replaced. It's not a huge amount, but we want to make sure we're thoughtful.
Do you know roughly how many there have been reported?
Gosh, I think we did something like 60 plus. I don't remember off the top of my head.
60?
Yeah, specific. No, we're working on that. We're going. We haven't done any yet.
But 60 have been reported recently.
Yes,
Not
we did.
going back last fall.
We did a walk and looked at them. And that includes all of phase 1, including the town site apartments as well as Anacapa and Landing Cove.
Specifically focusing on the loropetalum, the purple plant. It's got the little purple flower on it. It's one of the ones just seems to have struggled the most. So we want to make sure we put a replacement together on that one.
why it struggled? Was it light or water or?
Loropetalum is a very temperamental plant to get started. And so if it doesn't have, it could be water in some cases, but it's usually very shade tolerant. It's sun tolerant for the most part. So it's most likely water related, but it is a very temperamental plant to get started. Once you get it established, it's great. It's very drought tolerant. But again, kind of getting them started takes a little bit of time. I've struggled with them in the past too. And so that's why we want to make sure that if we recommended it, we're making sure that we're taking care of it. Other than that, that's my overall updates for what I have going on right now.
Probably just could be directed to you. So the irrigation specialist contract, we have a 1-year contract. Are we on track to finish that?
Yes, let me go back and verify that you have everything, but I know they have been out here and they've done all the recent inspections, and so I can get Jake the most updated list as to
So
what
we
we
expect it'll be completed on time, the contract will be closed and services delivered. Okay.
Yes, we anticipate it will.
Anything else? All
Thank
right,
you very much.
thank you.
Good evening. You too.
Our District 5 representative is out of town and not out of the office, not able to join us tonight. So we're going to a new item on our agenda and introduce John Lazarus, our site authority representative.
Thanks. So John Lazarus, I'm the Executive Director of Operations for the Site Authority. So first item on my agenda is, now that the playground's completed, UGCAM sent out a notice to the couple of homeowners who, while the playground was closed, put up outdoor swings and whatnot, and basically said, you have a certain amount of time to take them down, or UGCAM will have them taken down and charge those homeowners $100. I think they have 30 days to do so. Next one is, we're just reporting out, we're looking at enabling solar installs on townhouse roofs. It's a little bit complicated because we own the roof basically, but we're looking at it. Okay. Did you have a question, sir?
No.
So, do you want to go through and then we'll ask questions at the end?
We prefer.
On that one, I've long had a desire that there be a conversation that in lieu of putting solar on townhome roofs, that we instead do something in cooperation with the university and look at potential grant writing to expand the existing solar farm and use that source of solar to provide the solar power that the neighborhood would like to achieve. And I'd like that to stay on the agenda as an alternative to individual solar, because individual solar on the townhomes, as you understand, is complicated. Because at the point, especially complicated on 20-year-old roofs. So we're about to enter the part of the bell curve that says we're going to be replacing townhome roofs. And as soon as we put solar on a roof, that's the one that will fail, and the owner will have to take the solar off, and the roof will get repaired and replaced and repaired, the underlayment replaced. And then the owner will have to come back and reinstall it. And that's a pretty substantial expense to that owner. And if we can come up with an alternate way of offering people local solar power in a sensible way, and if we can get grant funding to build out the infrastructure to do that, because that offers the whole community the opportunity to go solar potentially, we might be able to get somewhere in partnership that we can't get to individual.
I can certainly bring that up with our facilities folks. I know we are always looking at expanding our energy production capacity on campus. So I think the initial reaction would be, if it's gonna, we'd like to figure out a way to do it.
Are you going to speak any more on the solar topic? Because I have a solar question as well.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So kind of a follow-up to Sandy's point. So if I were to put a solar on my townhome today, let's assume that can be done. And then the roof has to be replaced as part of the schedule of replacement. My question, will I be responsible as an owner for having that removed? Or will that be part of the deal?
I think we'd have to, there's three issues that I can think of, and that is one of them.
And that's what stops me right now.
And I think that that's a tough question. I think we want to make sure that whoever is responsible for that knows that they're taking on that obligation and bakes that into their budget.
So an owner would be taking that obligation on. Is that the policy?
Not at all. We do not have a policy. I think what we need to do is work. What happens if the installation damages the roof? What happens if we have to remove it? What happens if somebody doesn't pay their bill and they want to come and take it? And how do we make sure everybody's safe?
To be determined.
Yeah.
I appreciate your more open, start at the beginning conversation about this, because every other conversation I've had has baked into it the assumption that the owner is responsible for removing and replacing solar that they install on the townhome roof. That's been a kind of baked into the conversation. And I really appreciate your openness to at least have a conversation about that.
John, I believe many people are using wall-mounted solar power for their charging their cars, especially Tesla. What is the policy on that?
I'm not familiar with wall-mounted solar, so it's only on the south side of the house then? I'm not certain. I'd have to look into that. I've never even heard of it.
I mean, you have to look into the public policy also from around Sabri's perspective. If somebody is installing, they install.
We've approved solar roof installations for single family. I don't think I would have a problem with a wall installation for a single family home. I don't.
Nobody's talking.
I'd have to send me a proposal and I'll certainly run it up the
Same
flagpole.
issue which Sandy brought up about what a roof. It's no different from wall mount in a garage.
I'm not familiar with wall mounted, but I'd be open to figuring it
I'm
out.
just saying.
Are you talking, I mean, solar has to be outside in order
Not
to get sun.
Or
There's
Yeah,
no
but
sun.
the wall mount batteries can be on the wall.
Well, yes.
Oh,
So that
batteries.
was the additional.
The power wall.
Oh, well, the
Oh, okay. You're talking about storage, not production.
The power wall, I don't know, I don't think we've seen a property improvement request to install a power wall.
Yeah.
Oh, we have,
Single families.
Okay.
Yes, and it goes through a building permit process and goes to CSCI, the Facility Services Building Department.
Okay.
And gets approved and they inspect them and they approve the installation.
Okay, now have they, so there's an insurance coverage for that?
The point is that the single families covered there.
I'm not, I'm not.
I don't think-
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Okay, but
No,
are we going to have it?
Let me comment. We do allow the installation of additional outlets for electric car charging. Because some of those, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure, some of those may be 220. And that is up to the individual owner to pay for the upgrade from the 110 to 220. And that is all within, my understanding is that those are all within the confines of the garage and
You have to.
townhouse themselves for, and that's basically to charge electric cars.
So what about the inverters between 110 to 220?
You don't need an inverter, that's AC to DC.
Okay, so there's no changes in the main fuse board. Is that
And I
right?
have an electric car, it's basically what a dryer outlet is. It's like that.
so you have it, in my understanding, I had a friend give me a tutorial on this, so you're getting it second hand or third hand. You have the option of using 110 power, 220 power to charge your electric vehicle. Obviously, it's much faster with 220. If a townhome owner wished to use 220 charging, they would need to upgrade their electrical box, doing all the things that Jake has just mentioned, filing a permit request, paying the permit fee, getting the installation done, getting it inspected and moving
So,
I
forward.
mean, there's clearly interest in solar. That's obvious to me, and we want to figure out a way to make it work. We just need to do it in a way that's, fair to everybody.
there is no doubt there is an interest. The question is, let's think about it properly instead of going and saying, yes, I don't do it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I would also offer that there is, that the two can be married, but they don't need to be married. You know,
They need not to be married, you're right.
and so it's like townhouse people can install a charging stations for their cars in the townhomes. That is already being done. Now, and I know that then there are those people who have single families who have the solar that can be used to charge their vehicles. So, you know, that is that at one extreme because of ownership, we have the example with the single families. We are looking and going because of the jurisdictions via the ground sublease, what is the site authority's responsibility for the townhomes? And that's what we're.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Let's think about this in much more detail.
We are. Yes, thank you.
Next item I have is at the May 9th Site Authority Board meeting, the UGCAM budget was approved. I think you're going to present on that. Budget was approved. The one thing that I wanted to bring to the Site Authority Board's attention is we seem to have a underfunding in townhouse reserves, and I made sure that they understood that. The budget otherwise is, I think a reasonable one. And then the last item I have is, I don't know who's aware about the Early Childhood Care and Education Center, but we're planning on building one on campus, and the campus was granted $5 million for the 1920 state budget to develop, to design infrastructure. And there's basically 2 sites under consideration. I don't know if it's officially Big Rock Park, but sort of on the northeast corner of campus, right as you go over the short bridge on the left-hand side, or where the Carden School currently is, which is basically across the street. We're still very much in the discussion phase. The education department on campus, it's going to also provide a lot of opportunities for our sort of primary education major students to play a role in that. So we're excited to see it move forward.
Well, I assume it's tuition based of some type.
I actually don't know the details of that. I would assume the same thing, but I do not know.
I know that some of the children in Glen have attended the Carton School. And it is, I think, an opportunity again for cooperation between a neighborhood that has children and a facility that's going to provide childcare.
I know that the goal for the center is to provide childcare for students and the community, farm workers, sort of the entire community. So we're very much going to try to bring people in. The Uline community seems like a no-brainer to me, but I think we're casting the net wider.
And I've read the proposal that was submitted and got funded, and I just congratulate the university on gaining the money and moving forward.
Thank you. And that's my presentation. I'll take a question.
I have a question about your last bullet point about the childcare. So Carden is not in any way owned or funded at all by CSUCI, right? They're privately owned?
I don't know. I know that they are not a part of the campus.
Okay.
But I actually never dug into their finances to figure out who owns them and how.
Okay. So I'm just curious if the current Carden site was not chosen for the new location of this program, so we would have like 2 childcare options on campus, basically.
I mean, the academic affairs people, the education department is really taking the lead on this.
Okay.
And I'm not privy to those discussions other than I know they're excited. I know they got this $5 million. I know they're in the sort of site consideration part. I get dragged into it a little bit because we own Big Rock Park. And so there's sometimes questions about easements and whatnot and what's possible, but I'm afraid I just don't have all those details.
So is it your understanding, Sandy, that one way or the other, Carden is going away? And this is going to take its place?
It will, I think it'll still be Carden. It's just gonna move.
Okay, so the name itself will remain the same?
But it's a private enterprise. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm confused about.
I think we're at the step of figuring out where. I think if Big Rock Park was chosen, I would assume that your sort of overall line of questioning would be explored by people who are educators, who have PhDs, and I do not. But I don't know.
Just in terms of early feedback, and now let me preface this by saying I've never gone to the Rock Park, but there's already been a lot of rumble in the neighborhood of everybody being really sad about the possibility of losing Rock Park. So I don't know how much community buy-in there will be on the topic of location. But I think it would be good to at least try and bring, some sort of conversation forward among you, Glenn. I know a lot of people utilize that part, particularly for taking photos. So, I think just hopefully we can have open conversation about it through regular updates. I don't know how we communicate those out to the community other than through the HAC or the e-blast that Jake sends, but I've already heard literally from more than a handful of people. And I actually had to ask, I was like, what's Rock Park? They're like, the park with a huge rock. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I know it is. So it's definitely a topic of conversation in the community already.
I appreciate you sharing that with me. I will report that back and I'll make sure to put this on my agenda most nights.
Who knew a big rock was such a big thing? But apparently it is.
It's got a
It's a little spot.
It's, as a photographer, I can tell you that is a very interesting place to take pictures because light and the rock do a dance. And what you see depends on what time of day and how the light is hitting the rock. And I especially like it when it's a person.
Well, you know more about that than I do. So thanks so much, John.
So the point is trying to gauge us as they start sorting through the location.
Yeah.
I have a question backing up one step on the budget and the site authority board. So when the site authority board approved the budget, I did listen in on that meeting. Is it implicit that they also approved the level 3 reserve study with that? Is that part and parcel? I mean, is that study
Rolled
officially?
into it.
It is the basis of the reserve numbers that were in the budget that were approved. So it wouldn't be illogical to say that they did, but they certainly didn't explicitly do it.
I think that's all correct.
Okay, so that can be published soon, that reserve study, and we can consider it to be sanctioned by the site authority.
Let me get back to you on that one.
Because it's an important issue.
It is.
We're trying to figure out what our reserves look like, and we need a study, an updated one, to really see how well we are or not doing. And, and there's some other issues, John, that you've been dealing with some of us on the HEC and other things, the whole Miller situation. I know when it comes up, you've indicated it's being worked on.
Yeah.
I assume that's still true.
It is.
Is there a timeline on when there could be a focused discussion on that?
I think I'm going to have information. I've rolled out some information. I will continue to roll it out. When I get to the bottom of the list of questions that we all consolidated on, I don't have a timeline. I can't imagine it's months. I would imagine it's weeks or months.
We lose Kevin soon. I would really like Kevin. As I continue to say, I'd really like Kevin to be a part of it.
I assure you, I am doing what I can to push the issue along.
Well, let's just take that question offline again, and I can just continue the conversation because maybe we don't need all the answers before we have a conversation is where my head is. That we could have a conversation and then that will surely engender more questions. So if we had a preliminary meeting on the subject now and then delved all the rest of the way, everything we have done over the last year on this subject, every answer we've got has created another question. And so doing an interim meeting might facilitate us getting to the end of the question sooner.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming and for doing this. Is it your intention to do this regularly?
Yes.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We really, I frankly, I appreciate the fact that you've been coming since you were appointed, and I appreciate the fact that you're willing to take questions and have a dialogue with us here.
I appreciate being part of the conversation. So thank you all. All right, everybody have a good night.
cheer? No. We are now, Jake, it's your turn.
Okay, update I wanted to have on the playground update is that, I found out after this over, that PG Playground is called a Play Core, is associated with the National Demonstration Site Network. Users are encouraged to access information via the QR code on the sign near the entry gate. The QR code will also give the opportunity to take a survey, and we encourage users to, at the playground, to comment on their experiences at the playground and answering questions from the survey that can contribute to further development of the Play Core criteria. If you go on to Play Core, it gets it on the map as a yellow dot, which is a play activity. And so that's there. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. In talking with Kathy Wiggins, the project manager, she wanted me to encourage people to fill out the survey, because the survey also lets them know. So anybody that you talk to say, just let me fill it out, and it doesn't take that long to do.
I will ask the Landing Cove Valley to do the survey.
Right, and they can also do it a second time. I mean, it's like, so that we can give them lots of data.
Is that something that you'll be including in,
We can add
class?
that. We'll do
That'd be
that
great.
What was that called?
Tad is from e-blast.
To June, it's kind of like a reminder.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And I have to say, if nobody's been by there, any time of day, any day of the week, it was a great use of the community's funds. Everybody, young and old, I feel like is really enjoying it. I am asked daily to take my daughter there, so,
It's a good thing.
yes. Not
Gets
so
you
good
out of
for
the
me,
house.
for her, but yes, everybody's enjoying it a lot. So thank you so much
Yeah.
for making that happen.
Thank you. The one other thing we are doing is that the area where the dirt and the grass is, we're looking at what the best way to address that is. And we have several options. And we've been talking with the site authority about it, and also with the bank about it, of how that's going to.
My one little tiny piece of feedback would be, I wonder if we might, it seems like it's okay. I've seen the benches be filled up in there when I've been there. If we could get maybe a little bit of additional seating, I don't think it's, like end of the world if we don't, but it'd be a nice,
Like one more bench?
like maybe one or two more benches.
Would two more be good?
Yeah,
Okay, because right now there was one inside, one outside, and
Yeah.
one from the outside, one inside.
okay,
And then I'm looking at, in conversation with Mission Hills Management,
Mhm.
they would really like to have those on concrete pads that are
Okay.
anchored,
Mhm.
so they aren't moved around.
Yeah.
And, tear up the port in place potentially, and
Yeah.
everybody wants to point fingers.
I would say, as an alternative to additional benches in there, if there was an option of having like a picnic bench, because I know a lot of people like to go down there to have lunch with their kids while they play. I think that would actually probably be an even better option for the area, because I think we have the space for it. So that's another option. to keep in mind.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Is food allowed inside?
There's no sign that says that it's not, so I'm assuming that it is.
I'm not sure how we regulate that.
Yeah. You could try.
No, I'm not taking a position. I just want to make sure we don't put in a picnic table when,
Yeah.
especially the vendor says, like,
Yeah.
don't have food in the rubbery stuff. It's bad.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any signage that indicates that you can't eat in there. I see lots of stuff.
Let me
You're having
double
fun.
check. Let me double check. I'll
So
check
so
with
the rubbery stuff is important for safety.
Right,
It's also got a list of rules,
okay.
probably taller than I
Mhm.
am, especially as short as I become. But
But there's
And
warranties
it-
involved and things like that. So
Okay.
right, so
Okay.
we just.
Yeah, I wouldn't encourage putting the table on the cushy stuff, but
It would be
over in the
there's-
corner, yeah.
It would be over in the corner
Yeah.
away
Yeah,
from,
but that
and
might-
Yeah.
you wouldn't want a kid taking their juice
Right.
box on the.
Well, and
rubbery
I have to say, I think that would actually alleviate some of that, because I have seen snacking and drinking while the kids are walking around playing. And I think if we had a designated place for it, it might kind of,
Take it
you know,
right there.
That's a
keep
good
it in
idea.
one area.
Good idea. It's,
Yeah.
because as we all know, the rubbery stuff is
Yeah.
essential and very expensive.
Yes.
As Brett, you mentioned, we'll have the brush clearance completed by the 1st of June. Next item was wanted to report that as a result of the landscape maintenance RFP, right landscape service contract will be terminated as of June 30th. In consultation with Site Authority and HAC's Landscape Committee and Missions Management, is working with Gothic Landscape Maintenance Division on developing a contract which outlines the expectations of landscaping in university land clearly. The contract will also include documentation of services rendered. Consequences for not meeting the stated expectations will include consequences if an agreement upon time, if an agreed upon timeframe is not met. We anticipate representatives from Gothic Landscape will attend the June 16th.
And I'm assuming Brightviews already been,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah, I told them before I told Gothic.
great.
And to let you know, there were initially six firms that responded to the RFP. And immediately there were 2 that were kind of too expensive. So then we continued the conversation with 4. And of those, when it was a combination of the part of it, as well as it would seem their understanding of the project, our nature of our irrigation. And so I was very pleased that Gothic kind of stepped up and seemed to understand, and I'm confident they will be able to continue where we left off with Brightview.
Yeah, just from looking at their initial website, it looks like they're based in California, Nevada, and Arizona. So clearly they have a really good understanding of drought-resistant landscapes.
Yeah,
That's
that's
great.
They're a family-owned company. Well, I think it may be, I don't want to say the largest, but they say they're the largest family-owned company, which means they don't have stockholders, so to speak, or a board of directors, and that they are out of Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
That's their home office.
Jake, it's typical when you have a switch over of vendors, whether it's landscaping or whatever, management companies. There's a transition period between the 2 vendors. Sometimes there's a separate contract written for the outgoing vendor to continue to support for a month and do a handshake. Have we got that sorted out? Whether it's
How this is, in my mind, how this is working is that part of what Scott Godfrey responded to and saying, with the plants replacement and the outstanding work orders, they have those, and my expectation is they will have that completed by the end of June. And okay, now the other thing that I would also offer, okay, is that Gothic has at least 2 people who are very familiar with university plan. And one of them is a former employee of Brightview who was their regional manager, who will be our branch manager. And then it happens that the individual who did the town side phase 1 landscape refurbishing will be our team leader. So they know the irrigation, they know the plants that we have put in. So to answer your question, that
you're comfortable, because irrigation is one that's typically a bit complicated because you need to know what the controllers are, how they're set, software, all that kind of good stuff has to be handed over.
Lazaro and I walked it for you.
Okay. Yep. All right. So I'll make sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Got it covered.
That played a role in the decision. Yeah. Okay, so the next, talk some about the budget. Right now, the budget was approved, and we will put a letter together and supporting information and mail it out first week of June, so that we would anticipate a more detailed conversation about the budget at the June 16th meeting, HAC meeting. And so people will have received our annual letter and supporting information so that people, if they have questions, they can come. And in that conversation, I think everybody at the BAG agrees that we, and John Lazarus mentioned it too, very aware of concern about the shortfall, the townhouse reserves. And there are several possible solutions. And next year is really what we're looking at how we're going to implement that. And so that want to give the assurance, and there are various ways that seem to be how would you say it, to be fiscally responsible and not make it so that we can't live here.
Will the reserve study be available then? At the same time as the budget?
Yeah, it is now. I mean, it can be available, sure. The next item is that the candidates, we have 3 positions for the HAC coming up. And at the present time, I have 1 person who signed up. And I've been talking to several people, and I would hope that we can talk to people and invite them to fill the position. I think tonight's meeting, I don't quite know what to make of it when there are, 3 residents and 3 people from the HAC. And it seems like, unfortunately, when it's this way, it runs very easily and everything gets answered and everybody seems to be very cordial. And so I don't know how we communicate that. I've talked to various people, and there are many people that are interested in helping with various committees. And I acknowledge that there are lots of people with families that would love to participate more, but have soccer and have commitments with families that, as you know, are very are time consuming in a good way. And at the same time, there are many people that are do not have folks at home anymore, kids at home, that are either traveling and have various interests. And so we continue to ask them, and it would be really, really wonderful if those that are here could talk to you. Because right now we have tomorrow at 5 o'clock is kind of the deadline. And so it's like, if there's 1 person, I'm not sure. I'll have to get with John, figure out what we're going to do. But if anybody has any questions or people want to call and talk to me, I'd be happy to entertain any conversation.
Have we ever discussed whether apartment dwellers could run for HAC, or they have to be a homeowner here in the Glen?
My impression is that this is pretty much homeowners.
Okay.
And where that comes was initially, when we first started 5 years ago, I know that the asset manager attended the HAC camp.
Okay.
That I think my impression is that Kennedy Wilson multifamily and ENS Ring would consider that they would be the representatives for the rentals on the HAC if that would be the case. And then maybe we need to talk about that. And so.
Because I think especially when we're in a situation where there is, shared expenses, I mean, it makes sense for the people that are renters to have some say in.
Do you think the renters do you know any renters that would?
I know one that comes to mind who I think might be interested. But I think, just putting it out there, I also think, like when we did the postcard thing, for something.
For the town hall.
Yes, for the town halls. Or maybe putting, I don't know if you've already put flyers on the mailboxes to kind of solicit interest. I know you put it in the e-blast. I'm just trying to think of other avenues or outlets that we could use to kind of advertise. I think, I'll be frank, I think a lot of these meetings have been contentious, and I think that people are probably not, really, looking, it's not something that looks fun to be a part of, right? And I don't really know how to damage control that. So but I think it's, kind of just and I kind of spoke to this at the last HAC meeting that I was at here, there's a lot of contention and, it's there somewhat of a lack of, really feeling like there's teamwork between the community and the HAC, and I don't know how we turn that around, at this point, but I think if we could find a way to do that, I think there would be a renewed interest in serving the community in this capacity. But I think I would start by, at least making some sort of flyer for the mailboxes. Hopefully that would, I know we're kind of late in the game if we're trying to get a buy-in by tomorrow, but.
Well, there's a second round though.
Okay.
Let's kind of worst case scenario it.
Yeah.
If we only have one person who has put their name forward, that person is going to be elected. We would then have 2 vacancies. And it will be our responsibility as an HAC, the continuing members and the person who would be elected, to fill those 2 vacancies.
Okay.
And at the point in time that we solicited people interested in applying for those vacancies, we could certainly build a flyer and put it out and say the HAC at their June meeting is going to be attempting to fill these 2 vacancies.
Okay.
Please indicate your interest and ask that the same statement of personal interest that we ask of candidates be done. I guess I don't see it being worth anyone's time to do a candidates forum if we only have one candidate. But I do see building a much broader application process for the vacancies as kind of a second attempt to go after this. I know lots of us have personally talked to people and gotten the same response, which is, I really don't want to be involved in I don't feel it's the best use of my time.
Right.
Those kind of answers seem to come.
This is kind of peripherally related, but I'm just thinking I was actually thinking about what you were saying about the QR code at the park. And I wonder if we try to shift some of our communication with the community to a QR code that we could put on, we could just have a standing QR code that goes on the outside of the mailboxes. And whenever anybody walks by, they can flash the QR code and see what's going on in the Glen. This could be one of the things one of the topics that we could use. It could be all of the e-blast information on there. So I know it's not completely totally related, but a lot of people are really into QR codes these days, So I think it might.
And you'll teach us old folks.
Oh my gosh, if I can do it, anybody can.
We had the QR code for social events for a while.
Yeah.
How well did that do? Did anyone?
I don't know. You have to ask Maisha. I think it did pretty well though. I think she got a lot of news for that last newsletter, which included a QR code. People want what is convenient, and the phone is convenient, and a QR code. It's literally, I cannot tell you. You go like this, and you flash it to the QR code, and it says Safari at the top, and it opens up the web page. That's all you do.
Well, most restaurants are using it now.
Yeah,
You're talking to.
That's why I say.
Well, moving ourselves forward with QR code. It's great, but it shouldn't be the only way.
No,
There's a lot of
absolutely
people who
not.
Don't.
Right.
Have a smartphone.
Yeah, well, I don't know anybody that doesn't have a smartphone, but, I'm not saying we discontinue the e-blast, but I'm saying there's a lot of people that don't read the e-blast that will definitely flash a QR code.
Okay.
I really like the idea. And I would really like instruction in how to use it.
Yeah, it's super easy.
Sure, you shouldn't stay on.
Sandy, most phones,
If I had the energy, if every meeting was like this, I would.
I can train you in 1 minute. It's easy. Can I ask, so this date tomorrow,
The
that
5
date,
o'clock.
that's self-imposed, right?
Yeah, basically it comes down to that we need to have,
If we have to do a
It's
candidate.
we have the votes, we need, in the past, we have sent out mailings with the ballots and we need it returned by the 15th of June.
Okay,
So because the.
so that's the hard stop we have, is the 15th of June.
But before we do that, we also need to have a candidates forum.
But guess what? If we used a QR code for the ballots, we could do it very last minute.
Can you do that?
Yeah, because what you would do is you'd create the QR code, they'd go into the page, they would have their,
CAN number.
they would have their CAN number. And then the list of candidates that's there, they push a button on one or two, however many they want to vote for. I think it's however many seats, right?
Yeah, great.
And the results are automatically tallied, and you don't even have to count them because they're automatic.
But we have to have an alternative. I mean, there's some
I'm
people.
not, I'm not saying that we don't. I'm just, yes, we could, what I'm saying is how do we garner more community?
Got it.
Absolutely.
We're all.
Absolutely.
We're on your page.
Yeah.
The turnout
Just-
here.
I don't think we should discontinue the paper
Yeah,
ballots.
well, we kind of have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of have to live
Yeah.
in one world or the
Yeah.
other. about
Last year's-
balloting.
Last year's turnout was.
Yeah, but if it's CAN number based, it doesn't
I
matter.
know, but you don't have CAN numbers. Because,
we don't?
no, because that's not it.
I don't need a CAN piece in my house.
We send them out, but the envelope does not have
Okay,
any CAN number on it.
okay.
So what you end up with is something where the anonymity of the voter
Okay.
is no longer protected.
Do we feel like that's, really important to the
Well,
community, to be honest?
the other thing is that we need to make sure that each residence has one vote.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know, maybe you attach it to like their address then, so but then,
Then yeah.
yeah, then you'd only have one vote per household, not. I'll think on it, tomorrow,
Well,
or this weekend, when I'm not exhausted.
All I'm trying to say is tomorrow doesn't necessarily have to be a
No,
deadline for
uh-uh.
still canvassing. Because right now, we don't need a candidates forum if there's
Right,
one person.
right.
Well,
So
then
there's
we
some
would
things
be-
you can just like not worry about.
It isn't 5 o'clock tomorrow.
Right,
Yeah, okay.
Right.
but if at 5 o'clock tomorrow, there are 3 candidates, we need a candidates forum.
Okay,
Yeah,
but if not, we should keep.
Well,
and also to be honest, like how valuable are those candidate
Need
forums?
a motion on this, please. There will be a motion on for elections.
Yeah, but we haven't decided yet, so once we decide, we can put it to vote. But I don't know that the candidate forum was really valuable, at least not when, I don't remember being asked anything when
Well.
I was.
last year there were
So
5 people.
last year,
Mhm,
what, at Chris's suggestion, the HAC decided to do was hold a formal candidates forum
right,
with a formal list of questions.
okay,
And I was the only candidate who took the questions and did the
Right,
homework.
that's right, I
And
do remember
answered
that now,
them.
sorry about that,
The other 3
You did all that
candidates, chose not to do that.
yeah,
I think because the questions that the HAC came up with, I thought were really insightful.
mhm,
And they gave the neighborhood a chance to figure out where you were.
mhm. I will say though, Sandy, I feel like you're kind of the exception to the rule in the community in terms of knowing the history of the community. I just don't know. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying I don't know how valuable it is for the majority of candidates that come through the door because, I mean, you could have asked me the most simple question when I was a candidate and I would have been like, I have no idea, sorry. Like, I'm gonna do as good of a job as I can, but I really don't know anything yet.
And I don't disagree with your concern about the candidates forum. All I know is we had the best turnout last year than we've ever had for anything.
Wow,
Something worked right.
okay,
I don't know what.
okay, yeah,
It was great to see that kind of participation.
Okay.
It was.
Okay.
So
We derailed you, sorry.
So let's-
do we have a consensus about how we'd like to proceed?
I wanna think about it and then,
I think we check in with each other.
Yeah, we can check in.
At 5 o'clock on Friday and have a sense of, see what we have.
I mean, what's the worst case scenario if we need to delay the elections a month?
We're not allowed to.
We're
do
not
that.
allowed to, okay, I was.
I guess-
We just have to have people in place by July 1st.
Okay, all right, because, to Simhan's point, we don't want to make decisions about how we're going to handle the elections without community input, but yet we don't have another one. I guess that could be enough time, if you think about it, if we can figure out how we want to handle this by the next HAC meeting in June, that might give us like a good 10, 12 days to get community input, get approval, get the voting going,
And get it back.
I mean, 12 days is, that's almost 2 weeks. I
I
think
have
that's-
a backup plan.
Okay, let's see what's
Yeah.
going on. We'll check in on after Friday.
Okay.
Monday or whatever,
Okay,
and take it from there and come up with a plan.
sounds good.
Okay. Okay, informationally, the CAM office will be closed for Memorial Day, so don't come and try and get. What? I know, don't try to come and get temporary. And we talked about the water. The last thing that I have is that just want to let everybody know that my dear assistant Ivy is going back to school.
Congratulations.
And she isn't quite sure which law school, but there will be a law school in her future.
Nice.
And so her last day is going to be, it appears to be July 29th. And so what I would like to put out there in the community is that there will be a half-time position
Okay.
for someone who is computer literate and enjoys working with people, good, bad, and ugly, and enjoys basically serving the community. And I think if you'd ask her, it's a very, how would you say, flexible time-wise, and willing to talk to anybody, old, male, female. Yes?
How much does it pay?
At the present time, I think it's 22 an hour.
I actually have somebody that I think might be
Is
interested.
it possible to put together a sort of a description? We've got it.
We've got it.
That we can put it
What's
out.
the, I know you said that the hours are flexible. What's the hourly requirement per week approximately?
It's 20 hours.
Okay.
20
perfect.
hours is what is budgeted. And
Okay.
what we really try to do is do 4 hours a day.
Okay,
And what we have worked out is we kind of go over, that I go to lunch, she's there, and then I come back and she
Yeah.
has just left, or,
Great.
then we're covered basically from 9 to 5.
I always go when you're gone because she's a lot easier to work with.
Yeah. That gives you that option. I want to give you that option.
and I'll
So-
tell you later who I'm thinking of. It's
Okay.
easy to work here, so.
So that kind of is what I have. So, any questions?
Is that your entire report?
That's my.
Are you gonna
shall
talk
I-
about any-
No, what?
Do you, are you
What are
gonna
you
talk,
thinking?
put in the budget aside, are you gonna talk about any other financial issues?
No, sorry, I'm not giving I don't have a report monthly. Are you?
Okay, I have a couple specific questions. I think I sent them by email. So I noticed we had a reserve expenditure for a furnace for $17,000. My question was that, were there extenuating circumstances or is that?
Yes,
What we
yes.
expect? No.
Okay, what, having to do with the townhouse reserves for the heaters.
Right.
Okay, this was the first one we've ever done.
Yep.
It was one that there were babies involved. An owner who was going into Thursday, Friday, and then there was a long weekend.
Yeah.
And so we got it taken care of. And when we were completed with that, we realized that it included the air conditioner as well. So it's like, so now, because they have one unit. Okay, so it replaced the heater. And there was connection to the air conditioner, which from our standpoint, we would look at what we learned was that in the future, we have an amount that we will pay for, and the owner can do it whenever they want. And this was what we'll reimburse you for.
Okay, so that number should not be that high for future.
No, it will not be, and that is not where
budget,
budgets
sir.
are. And that was the first one. Yeah.
All right.
We did have a lower price, but it ended up
Fine.
that person couldn't do it for a week.
Fine. And then second general comment. So we're running a surplus net income for the year, $75,000. We got 2 months left. Looks like we're going to end up the year with a surplus.
There are several items, there are several items that we will still do this year. We have several items.
So do you think we'll burn through that surplus before the end of the year?
Some
The question gets around to, if we have a surplus, what are we intending to refund that to residents?
At
Or is
the,
that being deferred for next year?
my understanding is that per the ground sublease, that whatever surplus there is, that is going to be credited to the accounts,
Yeah, okay.
divided and given as a.
So we intend to implement that effective this fiscal year.
That's the intention.
Okay.
Yes,
That's what I wanted to know. So they're,
And that would be,
but only after the final audit.
right, which is October.
which would be in
October,
Got it.
November.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just one note.
That's the
But
intention.
it looks,
So are we going to burn between now and October 75 grand?
not October, end of June,
Right.
and we-
6 weeks.
But,
No,
but there are a set of audit entries over which we do not have 100% control. And we have to get through those audit entries before we know what the bottom line actually is.
when is that audit entry October?
That's
Um,
September 30th.
It took us until spring this year to get it, but normally it would come October, November.
and one final comment, going back to water sewer, our irrigation water expense is running way over budget.
Mhm.
And the sewer expense is flatlined for the last couple of months. So I think we need to have another discussion about what's going on with those two line items.
I'm not sure, the flatlining, it's like, I'm not sure what exactly that is because I'm getting different numbers back from Roxanne for next
So
year.
that's the last 2 or 3 months sewer expenses to us are flatlined. Okay,
I understand.
let's talk, we'll take it offline, but the
Yeah.
point is, something's still not right.
Okay.
Flat line. Tom, flat line. What is that flat line?
Go up or
What
down.
is flat line?
I don't know what the exact amount is.
Let us say that the sewer bill was $100 a month. A flat
I
line
know, I
means
know that. I'm asking, what is that flat line? And what number?
I don't know. I can't remember. Didn't come in with that.
all right. Um,
Me.
Census Committee.
Okay, so this is going to be very short and sweet. As many of you know, the Olson clan is moving out of Glen. So we are still looking for a new chair for the social committee. Maisha and I, as well as Jake, all spoken with different residents who have shown some interest, but no commitment thus far. So we are still looking for somebody to take that over. I'm happy to fill that spot in as an interim, even after I exit my HAC post. However, I would like to find somebody that is permanently take over, that would have more of a time commitment than I'm able to, put into this position. I know that we're looking at having another movie the end of June or July. I forgot.
June is the 28th.
June, yeah, June the 28th, right. So, we were hoping to have somebody in place.
We're supposed to have one. May 28th. May 28th, they're supposed to be at 5:28.
Well,
5:28 and 6:25.
oh, okay, well, let's talk about that
Yeah.
tomorrow then.
Okay.
And, I will help as much as I can.
Whether we can choose a movie.
Yeah. Somebody had suggested one. to me.
I thought there was a list of movies, didn't
There
you?
was, but I can't find
We've
it.
just got the dates.
Yeah,
We
so,
just got the dates, okay.
yeah, so we'll get it done, 5:25 and 6:28. Wait, 5:25 is that, no, 5:28 and 6:25.
Something like that.
Yeah, that sounds right. Okay,
6:20.
so we can get that done. We'll probably need to work on that sooner than later, to get it socialized. But that's all I have for the social committee right now. And I hope to have more, I guess, by our next meeting before I leave my post.
Carolyn's attending a child's graduation. But speak briefly the landscape for us, even though you're no longer officially there.
So Carolyn is still looking for a co-chair for the landscape committee. She's been a vendor selection. She's seen knowledge and so forth. So that's taken place. I think Carolyn also had requested that owners report any dead plants and so forth. So
And they've
in
done
addition to your inspection, the two, hopefully we've got a comprehensive replacement list for phase one, dead plants. I'm not aware of anything else right now that I can speak.
Any new work orders?
Any what?
Work orders?
I'm not doing that anymore, so. I'm no longer co-chair, so I didn't.
put that together.
Right.
If you want to come by the office, I can show you the monthly report, and that has the list of the work orders for this. Yeah,
As long as it's been addressed,
as long as,
as long as those being addressed,
yeah,
taken care of.
they're being addressed, yes.
Yeah. Usually when I was looking at them, I was just looking to see if there were any spikes that might indicate we had a problem coming up, or the landscaping company wasn't paying attention. Yeah, so I assume.
Yeah.
So in the new landscaping contract, I'm sure you have already discussed that with your vendor, is really defined statement of work and quality control
Yes.
process and everything. And who does that and how is that evaluated? I'm sure
That's what we're making sure, yeah.
So I think one of the best pieces of news in the transition that we're going to go through from one landscaping contract to another is the opportunity to build into the contract kind of accountability that was not in the original contracts. So I think that's a key
And
benefit.
somehow we need to develop a monitoring system. Internal.
Right, and the contractor bearing responsibility for producing reporting that allows us to demonstrate that they're performing according to the contract. So I think the best thing to be said is that improved management controls were built into the RFP and are now built into
And
this.
also the change control process. In case we need to change control in the project. Any project landscaping project should have. That's one of the issues we have is when something happens, what is the change control process and the cost of that?
We definitely face a challenge, I think, when it comes to knowing how to move forward with phase 2 and phase 3 on the landscaping refurbishing, because we are facing a severe drought. And although we're a commercial account and therefore not under the residential restrictions, we all have to understand, as soon as all the residential customers stop using potable water on their lawns, the supply of reclaimed water automatically goes down because there's a direct relationship between those two amounts of water. And so we need to be aware.
So what is going to happen to landscape project 2?
Well, let's talk about that at another time, because when it comes down to it, there are fire restrictions that are coming into play.
Mm-hmm.
And how that impacts what we do. And so there are many things that I would a presentation.
So my question is very simple. At this time, the original landscape project, phase 1, phase 2, phase 2 and phase 3 has been basically put on hold, or is that going to be activated again the way it was, or is going to be absolutely a new approach and say we're going to start?
What we're looking at is what is the approach that we can move forward with that meets the requirements that have come into play from a fire defense standpoint that were not in effect when we did phase one. And that has to do with defensible space 0 to 5 feet. There are to be no plants.
I
There's a
understand.
structure.
I understand. My question is.
So the.
You know,
What is the-
I'm trying to get it simple, okay?
Mhm.
That was not in the plan
Okay.
when we did the initial phase one, phase two, phase three, okay? So with that, and now we have the drought, and now we have additional requirements from Ventura County Fire Prevention, which determines which is saying which plants you can and which plants you can't use. That is something that is an overlay that now we are at a spot where we can do that with a new vendor, landscape vendor, to come to the community and say, here's a mock-up. This is what we're thinking we need to do. And at the same time, is to make sure that Ventura County Fire Prevention is on board with our mock-up, that if we do that for everybody, that then we can do that.
Okay, so.
And we have gone after a grant to give us enough rock that we can fill the blank area, the 0 to 5 foot area, mostly with rock. Because right now, the option with our budget would be dirt.
Okay, so my question is not that detailed, I don't know that much detail. I just want to ask you, where will when you start the new landscaping phase, right?
Right.
Where will it start? Will you start from the phase two, which you ended, phase one you ended?
I'll tell you. Okay, if you look online, the phases have been listed online since phase one.
Okay.
There's phase one, which was Anacapa and Landing Cove.
Right.
Phase two, Channel Islands, 100 block to 400 block,
Right.
and Smuggler's Cove.
Correct.
Okay, and then that also includes, just to be detailed, is Parkview. Okay,
Right.
then phase three is everything north of Long Range Canyon Creek.
So basically you'll start from phase two, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, that's where we are. We're ready to do phase
Phase
two.
two, and then the new vendor comes in, you will say, hey guys, start with phase two, rather than go back and replenish.
Right, right. The
That's
plan-
not my question.
Okay. So
Nothing more details.
Thank you. Garden Committee, Gabrielle is not here, and I don't think there's anyone to speak for the Garden Committee. Okay,
Can I ask Jake, maybe, so I heard word that the government is looking at adding more fencing. Do you know anything about that?
My sense is it isn't going to happen this year.
Okay. So they're,
I would say no.
okay.
the good news is that they have had serious conversations with many of the people on the waiting list, and the list last I knew was down to 14,
Still 14.
but it's still 14. That is true. So finance and budget, on the back of your agenda, I'd like to just briefly continue the conversation that we started last month about how we account for money, how we budget for costs in the community, and how those costs are shared by kind of expense. So last month we talked about the fact that all of the expenses are shared by door. So if a door incurs an expense, it's paying a share of that expense. Many of our costs are shared across all 672 doors that we own in the community. Some of them are shared across 200 doors. Some of them are shared across 72 doors. So what these pie charts show is the major costs by category of owner that represent the current monthly CAM fee for that ownership. So townhomes are paying just shy of $370 a month, and they pay their largest cost is for landscaping. Well, I guess repair and maintenance for them it's $1 more than landscaping. So repair and maintenance is the town homeowners' largest individual expense line items. And that's because town homeowners do more things in common than anybody else in the Glen. So what does that mean? Doing more things in common. It means that instead of being personally responsible, for example, when a window breaks, where we would go find a window repair somebody and they would come and repair the window and we would pay the bill. We do that in common, okay? We do the maintenance of the sconces outside our windows, outside on the lights. We maintain those in common. And someone comes and repairs them when they cease and don't work anymore. Our next largest expense is landscaping. And that's an expense that everybody shares, but for us, that's our next largest expense. Utility.
Sandy, on the landscaping side, this is more, do you have the square foot area for each of these categories?
No, and that is not how we,
I understand.
that's not how we do it.
But in general, how does that work?
Our general looks at this. If we did, it depends on who controls totally open area, where you put that. We have use of that totally open area.
You have that.
We have the use of it as town homeowners,
Okay.
but we pay based on our number of doors rather than on the number of square foot that we have used to.
Okay.
And it gets very difficult if you look at the square footage of the
I
Glen,
understand.
the actual land area, and try to figure out how to charge it. It is probably because we all residents of the Glen have access to the common area green space. And that sharing that by doors seems to be the most equitable way to share that cost. Is I think where we are. So landscaping, utilities are street lights, right? Street light, electricity.
Trash. And those are the street lights, yes.
How about water?
Water, sewer.
So we only pay 74 for waters and sewer and all that other stuff.
Right. It's a very good deal.
That's a huge bargain.
It is. It's a very good deal. If you've lived in
A
the
water
open.
bill? Oh yeah, water bill alone for small homes.
Couple $100.
Could be.
Could easily be. No, it's actually doing, the things we do in common are a huge. Now, the largest expense that nobody else has that we have is insurance. Because we, our property insurance and our earthquake insurance in common for town homeowners. And our largest single expense is funding our reserves. And that's because within the reserve study, we do more things in common than is normal in a community of our type. That's per the ground sublease. So you're looking at what you will see, I'm hoping next month, that when you get the budget, you will also see this set of pie charts updated for the new CAM fees and the new budget.
And what is going to be approximate change?
I have no idea until
Return on 20, say 75 grand.
I have no idea what the final approved budget looks like.
There wasn't-
I can't
there was a
answer that
total
question.
announced At the state board meeting,
Okay, well, I was in another state.
or was it 18% or something? I shouldn't say anything. I don't.
25 capital.
What we'll do is we will send out the letters, which will include the updated PIE. And also, we're looking at, we'll send it out basically like we've done it in the past. And then we'll talk more about it in June.
Right, so what you will have is a letter in your hands in the first part of June, before the June meeting, that will include the budget, will include these pie charts for the new.
Before and after.
Yeah.
This is before.
This is your before.
Yeah.
You'll see the new budget
Mhm.
with the data that you get in early June. Now, single family folks,
Sandy, can I stop for a second?
Sure.
So in which of these categories, I used to know this, has our leasing cost 100,000 a year? Where's that embedded? Remember?
The leasing cost.
no, the police cost.
Leasing is under the maintenance and repair. It's at the last line item in our.
And that 100,000 is all three categories, right? That 100,000 is for all three categories combined.
Yes, that is correct. It's just shy of 100,000, yes. And I think that's part of the point that I want to make here, as we look at these, is that we're all paying our own allocated amount, but everyone is paying. So in single families, their current camp fee is $232 a month. And again, they're looking at landscaping. Their reserve funding is much lower because they are paying the common area reserve amount, which you'll see when we get to the bottom of the page, but it's $14 and some odd cents. $14.27 is the common area reserve contribution that everybody in the Glen, every door in the Glen pays. And so if you look at the $101.63 for townhomes, if you look at the townhome only expenses in that, that's $87.35. If you look at the single family CAM-free amount, for them, $20.45 of their $35 is single family only amounts that they're responsible for. But again, for them, they're looking at utilities being a big piece, repair and maintenance being a big piece, landscaping being a big piece in the budget. And lastly, if you look at our rental doors, and there are 400 rental doors, they are paying, and they're paying reserve funding, and they're paying the $14.27 a month for the common areas that the rest of us are paying. So whenever there is an expense that's in the common area, it's being shared across all 672 doors.
And this data is based on your last month's report you gave me, that number.
No, this is,
Big chart you gave.
no, this is based on the 21-22, our current budget, 21-22 budget. This is, I am not looking at actuals here. This is based on the budget. This is based on the budget, because it's the budget that drives the CAM fee. Okay, it's actuals only.
Helping budgeting next year.
Yeah, so the way the budget is created is from the actuals for this year. Each year, a line item is updated based on the actuals that we experienced the prior year and what we know either from bidding or surveys of vendors it's going to cost us going forward. So that's how we build a budget for the Glen, is that very, very straightforward way.
And for the landscaping contract that you want, there was a bidding process, and also we went through that. And also the cost wise, best deal.
Yes.
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 I'm
So-
sure you guys have done that.
So whenever something goes out to bid, we look at two ways. We look at two things, cost and ability to perform. And so those are the criteria that go into the final selection. So, again, all the things you see in the rental are really all common area expenses that are shared across all 672 doors. And I think we need to be aware that when we look at an individual line item in the budget, we need to know what the divisor is to look at our own cost for that line item, so that if an item is in the maintenance and repair section of the budget, it's divided almost exclusively by 672. And when you actually look at the budget page next month, you see that page, what you're going to see is there are highlights where that is not 100% the case. And there are 2 or 3 line items in repair and maintenance where they're highlighted. I think it's in green. And that green indicates that there's a townhome only aspect to that line item.
So it was like a, sort of a out of the norm situation.
No, it's not out of the norm, it's planned.
Okay.
But in that particular line item, included in it is a townhome only expense that shows up only in the townhome column. And for one very small line item, there's a single family only expense. But in general, for almost everything, what's in repair and maintenance is common area things that are shared across all the doors.
I think gate repairs are an example.
I'm sorry, no?
Gate repairs are an example of a townhome only expense. It initially gets thrown in a big bucket, and then I think in September is when you kind of peel it back out.
Okay.
When the new phase opens, those people share these expenses as well.
That's to be determined exactly how this, it will be separate, you know, in the sense, if you look at the budget that's online, Don, is you'll see that that within the rentals, there are categories, just like there's the townhouse and the single family. We are imagining that when that is involved in the community, that it will widen and they will have separate columns that they will do whatever is included in common area management will be in that separate column.
So when you look at your crystal ball, do our canopies go up?
Well, they've gone up.
No.
You're saying for this year or for when they?
Bringing
it would be similar.
bringing the 32 acres online will give us the opportunity to see some economies of scale in some things. We don't know what the fiscal impact of those economies of scale will be, but we can hope for them. That's a really
Yeah. Know that you have to pay, right? Just speculate.
Oh, no, I not only try to speculate, I actually try to put pencil to it. And there are, at this point, still too many variables for that pencil to have anything but a very close. So I can tell you what my guesses are, but that's all they are, is guesses at this point. But think about when you see the budget you're going to get, where it fits on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and that's all the width we need. Now take a legal sheet of paper and turn it sideways, turn it landscape, and the columns are going to stretch out on that legal sheet of paper.
So signing, well, including that 600 new homes when it comes in and you start looking at a different approach. You still will be dividing the east campus, the west campus, and the west campus, east campus will be combined with the 600 homes.
So what I hope we're able to do, because part of the economies of scale make this very important, What I hope we're going to be able to do is have one management structure for CAM that incorporates both the 32 acres and the existing community.
When you say
That-
existing community, East and West Campus,
No, West Campus is not a part of this conversation.
very good. That's all I need. Thank you.
Okay, West Campus is the university.
That's all I need.
They are not a part, they're not on these pieces of paper.
Thank you. That's all I need.
Okay, super. So my point tonight is that you have to know how many doors there are and where they fit and whether or not they pay unique things. If you're a town homeowner, you pay unique expenses that only we have. If you're a single family owner, there are almost none of those. You're basically either personally responsible for the items or you're just paying common area fees. If you're a person who lives in an apartment, what is built into your rent is paying common area fees. And I want to thank Jake and Ivy for reformatting all of this so it compares and looks, and I appreciate the extra time and effort to pull the numbers together for us today. And you will all see this again next month when you get the report of what will be the budget starting on July 1, 2022. All right. CAG, I think, is on my list too. So the CAG meeting happened last month. We had a discussion what water shortage was going to mean to us as a group. Highlighted the fact that the playground had opened. I mean, and I haven't heard the noise level really go down since it opened. I mean, it is joyful noise. It is wonderfully joyful noise. And I am pleased that we bit the bullet and everyone involved agreed, the site authority agreed that the common area reserves could spend more than had been originally budgeted for that project because we'd be still without a playground because in 2.5 years of trying, we could not bring that project in at the budget that was in the reserve study. Kennedy Wilson tried corporate buying power and it only got worse. So what we have done and what we were able to do was with competitive bidding and having a neighbor in the Glen who helped us buy this at a very reasonable price. So all hail to that. We also talked about something that we didn't really talk about tonight that we're going to, and it didn't happen in the part of the conversation, inviting Maggie Tugas to come to the HAC to talk evacuation planning. And I think that'll have to fall to our June meeting at this point. There was a request during the CAG for the e-blast to include a reminder on everybody to sign up for alerts.
Sandy, what, in terms of evacuation, so she came here, what, a year ago? Are we expecting something new right now, or? Is it premature?
There is still some concern. I think it's take the plan and go. We have concern in the neighborhood about
Lots.
whether or not the plan is implementable.
Well, it's implementable, but whether it's going to be effective.
All right.
I mean, the plan's real easy. You go here, here, or here if you evacuate, right? So it's a capacity issue. So my question is it premature to bring her back in this quickly, or should we wait a little longer?
I think the question would be is that as quote fire season has started, it's like, I think it's important to bring it to the community. Now, I mean, when there are what, 10 people here, I wonder, is that the best use of time? Whether there's some way, whether potentially there is a way to just do 8-minute video with her
Mhm.
and just say, here it is, and here's the link, and, you know, we present
Here's the
that.
QR code.
Yeah.
Yeah, and say, here it is, and, you know,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Because we're still another year and a half, 2 years before that part of the community is popping.
Exactly.
So to dive into it again this soon, I think maybe it's,
I think that's a reason, I would.
because
agree that's
if we have to
a reason.
evacuate, nothing's gonna be different right now, except for the contractors.
So what happened to that committee which Sandy and the team was talking about putting together a 32-acre and the Brooklyn community plan for evacuation and emergency management? In general.
Okay, so in the papers, the process of getting the 32-acre development approved up the chain of all the command, there is a plan for how we evacuate the entire community. We have folks in the community who don't feel that that plan is adequate or takes into account the total number of people and the issues that are involved. And I think where we sit is that until we actually see what Tom is saying, is until we actually see what actually happens at in the 32 acres, who populates the 170 unit senior housing? Are those people, do those people have cars? Do they not have cars? Do they rely on public?
It's too early, is that what you're saying?
So what we're saying is we really don't know who actually is going to move in and know the needs of the entire population. I mean, we know where we know what the doors are going to be, or we anticipate what doors are going to be built, but we don't know who's going to be behind those doors and what special needs those folks are going to bring to the issues. It's an issue of both define the needs and then define the capacity of the roads, I guess. We have been asking for a 32-acre representative to join the CAG, and it's my understanding that with our second asks last month, the serious conversations have ensued, and this month, a 32-acre rep will be there.
Great.
A team. So that's what happened at the CAG. Now the issue is, are there CAG issues that anybody wants to ask to be added to the CAG agenda?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay.
With the completion of the top lot, playground. And I was very supportive of it, by the way. In fact, I think I saw the plans before anyone else. My question is, park's being planned, 32 acres. And my one fault with the playground is that it's at the extreme end of the community. And I personally been anxious to see something develop on the north end for residents in my area, so they have a shorter walk. And so I'm particularly interested in all these parks that they're on the plans, that they will have a playground for the north side of the community, similar to what we have today. So I'd like that to be made active and some confirmation that they've got that in the works.
Have we ever talked about putting an additional play area near the big pool? Because we've got that huge space right there. And has funding been an issue or interest?
We just haven't pushed.
Gotten
it
there yet,
forward.
okay.
I mean, you know, and part of-
Because that would be a great location.
Well, there were like 7 parks, generic parks in the 32-acre plan. So what are in them? Is one of them a playground, or is it going to be the Hillcrest pool area? But I think, what am I trying to say? The north end of the community is underserved. That's as blunt as I can be.
No,
What would,
don't disagree.
what would we have to do to kind of move that forward?
Fine.
I think I would bring it to the CAG because
Okay.
I think some of it has to do with, just as the playground right now is on leased land.
Yeah.
for Multifamily,
Right,
that land is multifamily. It's also.
okay,
And so, looking at it and going, saying, yes, this would be a good thing to have here.
Yeah.
And yes, it would
it's
seem.
kind of an underutilized, like just
It is.
patch of grass.
Well, and there are the big trees, so there
Yeah.
are some guidelines about what you
Right.
can do in the raindrop area, or
Yeah.
whatever it's called. But what is, where, because you can't disturb it within a certain part of the,
Mhm.
and you don't want kids playing in it.
And I'm assuming they wouldn't want to cut
Right.
any of those
And
trees
so,
down.
well, you would think not, but, I think that is an area that they would, I would take it to the CAG and put it up and say, I would ask multifamily
Yeah,
and just say, Ben, what would it take for this to come to the top of your
Mhm.
list?
And this did come up in the bag this year, and the bag punted
okay.
because of it.
the-
The bag punted because of its price tag.
Oh,
Another
the price
place.
tag.
Well, I don't. Let me be real clear. I think the developer of the 32-acre project should pay for it. Because we paid for this one, they should pay for that one because we're sharing it. So people that move in the 32 acres may very likely use this top or playground that we paid for.
Okay, so the thing to
That's
keep in
that's
mind,
my
the
expectation.
thing to keep in mind is from the common area standpoint, multifamily pays 59% of the common area.
Fine.
So it's like what I'm hearing you say is that will you do your 59% plus because you're doing the 32 acres and they're going to be using it, you need to add more into it. Because they're paying right now into the common area
Right,
for,
as we are,
as we
our
are,
portion.
correct.
Right.
And so, but if I'm hearing you right, is that if you're saying that because the 32 acres is across the road and there are people that would come to the Hillcrest pool and use a playground in the Hillcrest pool area, that developer of, whoever that is, developer of the 32 acres should include some money. It happens they're the same person.
Right, that's what, yeah.
See, I'd take a stronger stance even, but
Right, but I think Jake's point is not unreasonable if you look at the way the cost of what we currently have done is shared. They have paid very close to 60%.
and that's fine, but they have 60% of the residents using. That's. But I mean, the 32-acre project, they're putting in several parks. I'm not expecting to pay for any of those parks.
Right.
I, as an existing owner, the new development, the developer puts those in.
Right, so
We should not-
what's been conflated is Tom is saying that he thinks this park should go in the 32 acres. And what we heard you saying was put it next to the Hillcrest pool, which is in our neighborhood.
Well, I'm not sure I care about placement. I'm concerned about who pays. And again, we just paid for a great park for kids to play in. And the new 32-acre folks are going to be able to take advantage of that park that we have paid for. They will have not. So they need to pay for their park that they will share with us. I mean, this is real basic financial fairness.
Okay.
So
Okay, yeah, I hear what you're saying.
not a dime.
What it sounds to me like is that with this new person coming from the 32-acre project, is to ask, just say, could you explain to us what kind of park playground facilities you are planning for that? And see what they say.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen.
Okay, yeah, and
So the question should be, can we use that park?
Well, no, we absolutely can, for sure.
yeah, I think that's kind of been agreed to in the town hall.
Yeah.
It's-
Yes, then no problem.
Well,
right?
no, it's who pays. I just want to make sure
Yeah, I understand.
I'm just gonna build it out because it shouldn't be ours. Like, we built out the dog park a couple years ago. The new 32-acre folks are going to be able to take advantage of what we have already paid for. So
No, the whole, you shouldn't bring up dog park because the whole
Okay.
conversation is we have
Yeah.
to start all over.
That's just, okay, so I think stay with the playground, stay with the playground and ask the new representative or the
I have it on
representative.
my list.
to do
Okay,
that
okay.
and ask and
Anything
say
else
what's
that we
this-
need to take to the CAC?
You mentioned the dog park. If I haven't been there for a couple of months, is that renovation complete?
It's been complete. What do you mean, renovation? We did have some,
Grass or something.
yeah, we did have some issues with the grass and we're trying to figure out what we're gonna do because it did, the grass did not come back as quickly as we had hoped. And some of it has to do with, yes, it gets very heavy use.
Mm.
And so it's very, I plan on talking to the landscapers about what we can do with that and realistically what we can expect as far
Are the
as.
chain link fences still up?
No,
Temporary?
no. You need to go out there, Don.
Yeah, you're right.
Do you need a dog?
Jake, I also just,
I have what you can have if you need a dog.
Jake, one more thing I just noticed today was it's getting yellow, though.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
It's called water.
Yeah.
It's really going yellow, so I hope it doesn't die. You know, and we have to go back and replenish again. I just hope.
We're watching, we're watching.
I do
We
have.
are, we
I
are
have one
not,
question
we
for
are
you.
not gonna have adequate water to keep much of our green space alive.
So I can think, future and I can say that it's going to come back at all.
But we can't see
I
it
haven't
yet.
seen, I saw them this morning, they were in the Mission Hills.
Those would be, oh, they're in Ocean Hills.
We can hope, we can hope.
Good question. I think what I would suggest you do at the CAG meeting is ask, say, could we make arrangements to see
Yeah.
that, to see them or, you know, because I know they're showing it to all of the
Yeah.
investors and the company and everything. And I mean, I see it, but, oh, wow, that's pretty. But, you know, I haven't spent any.
We were
time
talking about seeing renderings of the
renderings of the
32
big
acre.
barn.
I want to know when we can see that, because I think that'll answer some of our questions about, you know, if we can see how close those common area, like playgrounds and pools and stuff, how close they are to this older phase. I think that'll maybe, you know, just give us a little peace of mind, as long as they're not like in the far back of their new development.
Didn't they have the most recent rendering on the wall inside here? Is it
They have a bunch of renderings.
Okay.
Yeah.
They have a bunch of boards that have
Yeah.
elevations.
And,
But they-
and.
I think
if you
this
look-
is
if you look
perfect
at
to
the-
ask.
Yeah.
If you look at the positioning on the plot, the apartments are closer to Channel Island.
Okay,
And the single families and the townhomes kind of go around
okay,
the east, I guess, the west,
They have the
west
mountain.
end. and
Okay.
around the
Makes
mountain.
sense.
okay.
Okay, it's 8:00.
Alrighty.
Okay, is
I
there,
don't think we have any PIAs, right? Ooh, it's good.
okay,
We're done.
is there anything else we need to discuss? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
I.
Aye, aye. Thank you.
Sandy, not done.